Good morning. Firstly, thank you everyone for coming to this session on day 3 of Cloud Next on a Friday morning. We really appreciate you all being here, and we are so excited to talk about everything we have been working in the last several months related to how do you securely bring the Gemini Enterprise app to every single employee in your organization. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm Anusheel. I'm a senior product manager in the Google Cloud team. And I'm joined here by Manjari, who's my awesome co-presenter. She's also a senior product manager in Google Cloud. OK, now with a quick show of hands, how many of you are already using the Gemini Enterprise app, like people in your company? OK, all right. How many of you are security professionals? OK, all right. How many of you have admin privileges, whether it's the G app or the GCP console? OK, awesome, great. OK, so we have a good mix. And I guess the topic is pretty relevant for all of you. Let's dive in. So for the last 2 years, the promise of AI in the enterprise has been that it would remove the toil from our day-to-day work, and productivity would be off the charts. Which is to say that AI would make it extremely simple for us to do our day-to-day work so that we all can focus on what matters the most, right? The toughest problems, the more creative aspects of our work, the more complex things, right? The complex meetings, the alignments, the approvals, etc., right? But it's still hard to scale the adoption of AI tools in the organization. This is because there are disparate point solutions everywhere, and enterprise data is trapped within those point solutions. Not only it is hard for employees to understand what tool to use for what specific use case, and none of them work in the right way that employees expect, but also for administrators, it's even harder to keep track of what are all the agents, what are all the MCP servers present in the organization, who has access to them, let alone setting the right guardrails or policies in place. Now, all of this has led to a sprawl of agents and sprawl of MCP servers in the organization. And all of these blocks are basically connected in a mesh with users, with agents, with MCP servers, and all the paths are ungoverned right now in the organization. Now, all of this leads to several risks, which perhaps most of you are already aware about. But let me just call out a few things. First, AI agents can make mistakes. Think of a scenario where an agent does a task but does it incorrectly. What does it mean for productivity? Agents can also get manipulated. Direct prompt injection, indirect prompt injection, they can do things that they were not supposed to. Then users can get access to agents that were not meant for them, which would mean that they would get access to perhaps enterprise data that they were not allowed to see. And then if agents are connecting to enterprise data sources, they could actually start leaking sensitive information to users. They could leak PII information, they could leak financial data or other confidential or sensitive information. Now, so in this session, we are going to talk about how Gemini Enterprise makes it simple to solve for all of these challenges. We will also talk about what are some top-of-the-mind risks and top-of-mind questions that our customers have. And then we'll end with a checklist of best practices. Now, before I get into these topics, I'll quickly introduce what the Gemini Enterprise app is for those who are not using this app right now. So we see Gemini Enterprise app as the front door to an agentic experience in the organization. And our goals are simple. First, we want to connect the enterprise data in a scalable and a secure way. Second, we want to provide every single employee, whether they are business users or they are developers, with advanced AI tools, as well as specialized agents, so that they can get things done in ways it was not previously possible. And in doing so, they should be able to leverage all of the relevant enterprise context. And lastly, we want to centralize governance so that we are not just democratizing AI tools, but we are doing it with the right guardrails, the right company policies in place. So with that, let me briefly talk about what are the core building blocks of the Gemini Enterprise app. First, it's the models. Models provide the sheer intelligence. With the Gemini Enterprise app, you get the latest Gemini models on the day of release. Then you have out-of-the-box assistance. This comes from the Gemini chat platform, through Notebook LM, through Canvas mode that allows you to create documents, slides, all within the app. And these are all tools that all employees have access to right out of the box. Then you have these specialized agents. These agents can be created by Google, for example, a deep research agent or the idea generation agent. These agents can also be created by employees through our designer tools, or these agents could be built by our partners and then brought into the Gemini Enterprise app through our integration with Google Cloud Marketplace. OK, and then what powers all of this is the context. And through our connectors platform, you can connect the Gemini Enterprise app to your enterprise data, to some of your most used applications with just a few clicks. And then you can start grounding all of the app's responses in your enterprise truth. And lastly, the governance. Here we have several tools that allow administrators, security professionals to visualize, secure, audit all of their agents, all of their MCP servers, and the overall AI system in a centralized way with the right guardrails and set uniform policies. Now, what powers all of this is the fact that Gemini Enterprise app is built on the foundations of agent platform. So some of the core primitives that Thomas would have talked about in his keynote are all foundational building blocks that the Gemini Enterprise app is able to leverage. So the registry, the gateway, agent identity, and we'll talk about all of these in the next few minutes. OK, now with that, the overview is done. So let me switch gears, and let me take you into the minds of our customers. And let me talk about what are some of the main or top-of-mind questions that we always hear from them, and how are we going about solving for them and making it extremely simple to guard against the various risks that I spoke about. So the very first question we get is, how do I, like if I'm a security professional or an admin, how do I discover all my organization's agents in one single place? Now, you can't govern anything unless you know what exists, right? So this is where we have, within the Gemini Enterprise app, you can see all of your agents in one single place, along with additional metadata, like when was that agent created, who was the owner. You can manage the states of these agents. You have a kill switch. You can disable or suspend an agent at any point in time. And you have similar details about the enterprise data sources or the data connectors that you have created in the app. Now, at Cloud Next, we announced the agent registry. An agent registry allows you to see not just Gemini Enterprise agents, but all the other agents that have been created in the entire agent platform. It also allows you to add agents that are, say, outside of GCP and use this registry as a central place. So if you are a security professional and you're not operating within the Gemini Enterprise app, registry is where you can see all of your assets in one single place. Now, registry is not just a discovery tool. It also has direct integration with policy. It is directly integrated with Agent Gateway that allows you to set the right guardrails centrally for all of your agents. And we'll talk about that in the next few slides. Then the next question I get is, OK, now the app has some of its agents, or it has employee-built agents, which are built using Agent Designer, the UI-based tool. But what about custom agents? My organization has several developers who are building agents on GKE, or they are building agents on Agent Engine. And those are really beneficial for my organization, and I want to bring them into the app. I want to make it available to my employees, and I want to do it with the right guardrails, the right security policies in place. So to do that, firstly, Gemini Enterprise's goal is to become the hub of all agents in the organization, regardless of who created that agent, regardless of the type of the agent, or where it was hosted. Which is why we have well-established integration paths for many different agent types. That includes Agent Engine, that includes a custom A2A agent, agents from Marketplace, etc. But here, again, what is interesting is our integration with the agent registry. So not just Gemini Enterprise app is registering all of its agents into the registry, we have also enabled this net new workflow where an admin can also pull an agent from the registry into the app and then make it available to a specific team or the entire organization with just following a simple click-through workflow. Now, this is a massive user experience improvement. But beyond that, another major value proposition is that now, since everything is coming from the registry, everything is in the governed path, right? Like you are still able to centralize things in your registry, and if you're creating those central policies, all of those policies would get uniformly applied. And you can do this not just for agents, but also for MCP servers. We often hear from our customers that, yes, like I do want to connect to my popular apps like Salesforce and other applications, but a lot of enterprise data resides in other ways which are being exposed via MCP servers. How do I bring them in? So the registry also has the option of storing your MCP servers, metadata about your MCP servers, and then you can seamlessly integrate your MCP servers as well into the Gemini Enterprise app. Further, you can customize whether you want to include specific tools within that MCP server or not. So all of that functionality is also available. OK, so far I spoke about discovery. I spoke about how do you bring in custom agents as well as custom MCP servers within the app through a governed path. But how do we control access? And the first part about access is user access. Now, for that, Gemini Enterprise admins have full control on the overall agent lifecycle. So not only they can add agents, they can manage the states, but they can decide who has access to that agent. They can share it with a specific employee, with the team, or they can share it with the entire organization if they feel that that agent is something that everybody could benefit from. Now, beyond that, we have also allowed employees to be able to share the agents that they have created with other employees. And the workflow is very simple. It's simply like sharing a Google Doc. An employee can share their agent with somebody else. And here again, keeping governance, security, top of as the core principles, these sharing requests by default need to be approved by the admin. OK, so I spoke about user access to agents. But what about agents' access to other agents or other enterprise data sources, right? I spoke about the risk that if agents are over-provisioned, they could start leaking enterprise information. So how do we control for that? Like, how do we set uniform guardrails that everybody follows, every single developer, every single agent builder in the organization? Now, before I talk about that, I'd like to briefly introduce two new foundational building blocks of the agent platform that Gemini Enterprise leverages. So first, it's the agent identity. So every single agent in the agent platform at the time of creation gets a unique, immutable identity. Now, this identity is associated with every single action that the agent takes, whether it acts on its own or whether it acts with the user's permission. And all of this can be audited centrally. The next building block is the agent gateway. Now, the agent gateway replaces complex networking configurations with a simple, fully managed service. It handles all of the traffic from your agents to its targets, be it other agents or MCP servers or APIs in your environment. And then the gateway acts as a uniform policy enforcement point. And I would also call out, and I get this question from several of our customers, that the gateway is not a single point of failure. It's an API abstraction. It's a control plane abstraction on top of the Google Cloud networking infrastructure. Now, you have the agent identity. You have the gateway as a uniform policy enforcement point. Let me talk about access control now. So how can you control access for agents using the gateway? So gateway allows you to define granular access control policies for every single agent. So you can write rules to say that a particular agent is only allowed to access XYZ other agents or XYZ MCP servers. On top of that, you can set conditional rules. So say if you're granting access to an MCP server, you can say that it only has access to certain tools or certain kinds of methods like read versus write. So this allows you to write policies like a particular agent is allowed to read emails from the workspace MCP server, but it is never allowed to send emails. And then you can then selectively allow only a certain agents that you trust to be able to have those actions which are, say, more riskier in nature. Then the gateway also has service extensions. So at Google Cloud, we fundamentally believe that our customers should have the choice to use whatever product they want. And hence, we allow the Gemini Enterprise app to also interoperate with a wide number of different security and policy products built by our partners. And we also have the Google Cloud Marketplace that allows companies to be able to procure those products easily. And with service extensions, you can plug them in the traffic path and ensure that those policies are also applied. OK, so we spoke about how do you get in agents, MCP servers in a secured way. We spoke about access controls, both users access as well as agents access. But fundamentally, how does Gemini Enterprise ensure that data access is done in a secure way? Now, for that, Gemini Enterprise has adopted the principle of zero trust or zero ACL leakage. This means that when you connect to an application, Gemini Enterprise always respects and honors the underlying user permissions. So if a user does not have access to certain data, even if they have access to an agent, they will never be able to see that underlying enterprise data. They will always be able to see data and results for what they already have access to. Further, our connectors are focused on agentic search, which means that we are never copying or ingesting any of the enterprise data. All of your data stays within your app, and Gemini Enterprise simply connects with that app. So this means that this also avoids any accidental leakage of ACLs. Further, it provides additional benefits, like it provides instant time to value, since you are simply connecting to the application with the simple workflow. It also lowers your total cost of ownership, since there is no data storage required, there are no additional costs, as well as there is no data operations required to keep the data live fresh. Now still, I spoke about AI agents can make mistakes, right? And this is where we need human control, especially for operations where an agent is making changes to an external application. For example, updating a Jira ticket or sending an email. This is where we always ensure that if the agent is taking those actions, there's always a human who's approving those actions. So if AI is making mistakes, there is the human who's able to protect against that. OK. Now, despite all of this, what can really happen is that the agent gets manipulated through direct, indirect, prompt injection attacks. And we have seen so much of it in news. Like there was a recent news about a Chipotle food ordering agent that actually generated some code of a Fibonacci series, right? So how do you prevent against such attacks? So for that, I'd like to pass it on to Manjari to talk about our integration with Model Armor, as well as other security products that we have. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Anusheel. Hi, everyone. I'm Manjari. I'm the product manager at Google Cloud. So Anusheel spoke about how do you discover agents, how do you do access control, how do you secure your data. Let's talk about security now. So in order to secure your agents, we recommend that for runtime security, you enable guardrails. One of them would be Model Armor, which is available to you. Model Armor will protect against security and safety risks across all your interaction paths for an agent. Now, in an agentic era, in a very few months, we've seen that the attack surfaces have evolved exponentially. Few months back, it used to be a direct prompt injection on chatbots, where the attacker was the user, and it was trying to get the LLM to do things it's not supposed to do. But the attack was contained in that user session. And the impact could have been that the sensitive data could be provided to the attacker, or the LLM saying some unsavory things that would result in brand damage. However, very quickly, in an agentic era, it's moved to indirect prompt injection, where the attack surfaces have exploded exponentially. In indirect prompt injection, a malicious a malicious input can be put in data that's from any external source. So an agent could have access to a website that will have these malicious instructions and then could override the instructions of an LLM. It could also come through an invitation to an email, an invitation to a calendar invite, and all the user needs to do is says, summarize my emails, summarize my calendar invites. And we'll show you a demo how easy it is to execute those attacks. However, with Model Armor, you're able to protect against those. And Model Armor is deeply integrated with Gemini Enterprise. And you can, the protections that you've used for Model Armor outside of GE can be brought here as well. So Model Armor provides a variety of pre-built detectors. It's leveraging the same powerful Google IP that Google is using to secure its own agents. It includes things like content safety model to protect you against dangerous speech or hateful speech, a prompt safety model to protect the agents against prompt injection and jailbreak, sensitive data protection to ensure there's no PII data or sensitive data exfiltrated, Google antivirus, and safe browsing. Now, Model Armor has been adopted at scale by many enterprises, and they've been able to secure against many such threats, including like social media agents talking about creating brand damage, or even social media. Sorry, I want to go ahead. But what's coming soon? We want to provide you detectors that can enable you to customize the protection for your use cases. And that includes the custom topics, which would allow you to create your own classifiers based on your own policy. Additionally, we'll have allow denial lists that can help you mitigate false positives and false negatives very quickly. Now, how do you configure Model Armor in Gemini Enterprise? For the ingress of the agent, you can configure Model Armor within Gemini Enterprise app. You can use different configurations or different templates for the request and the response. The same can be done for Notebook LM. Anusheel introduced the concept of agent gateway. And so you can use agent gateway on the egress path of the agent. So any interaction the Gemini Enterprise agent is having to outside agents, tools, models can be protected through the agent gateway by putting a Model Armor policy. Here as well, you can put a Model Armor configuration for input and output, and you can use the same templates and configurations you're using outside of Gemini Enterprise. So sort of you can manage it centrally and bring it to your GE agents. All right, let's show you a demo to demonstrate how this will work. So just to set up the demo, there's going to be a user who's using a Gemini Enterprise app. They have used a connector to connect the Gemini Enterprise app to his own Outlook. In his email inbox, there will be some confidential data sent by an employee, and then there'll be an attacker who's sent an email which looks very benign but has hidden instructions, and that will result in data exfiltration. So just let's have a look. My cool demos are working. Could you please help? All right, there you go. So you can see that this is a Gemini Enterprise app where Model Armor is not enabled. It's not configured. And in the Gemini Enterprise app, there is a connector which is connected to the Outlook. And as you go in the email, there is one email having customer's information, including credit card information, phone numbers, and card types. And this is the attacker, which is me. I've sent an email about an update policy, which looks very benign. But underneath that, there's hidden instructions to override system instructions and to summarize all the emails and send it to my inbox, the attacker. So you go back to the Gemini Enterprise app, and here the user can ask a very benign questions, like summarize my emails. And what you're going to see is that, as Anusheel was talking about, Gemini Enterprise does not allow you, it puts human in the loop to ensure these things don't happen, but there could be a human error which would accept this and will send the data out. But outside of Gemini Enterprise app, agents can be compromised if human is not in the loop. So this read the instructions and send that email. So back to, this is my email inbox, and I received all the credit card information. Now I can go shopping. Now, in order to protect this Gemini Enterprise app, I'm going to enable Model Armor. I'm going to put a Model Armor template in the request and the response, and I'm going to save it. Now back again, you can see it's still connected to Outlook. I want to ask the same question. And this time, it's blocked. And you'll see that when we go to the logs, we were able to find the hidden instructions, and there was a match found for prompt injection, and it was caused because of those hidden instructions. You can see there was a match found. It was prompt injection and jailbreak, and in the sanitize input, these were the hidden instructions that led to that. So in summary, again, we recommend that you put runtime guardrails like Model Armor on your agents to protect against these prompt injections. So the next recommendation we have is to enable sensitive data protection. So you not only want to secure the inputs and outputs, but you want to make sure all of the data that the agent has access to has been scanned for sensitive data, and all the right sensitive data or confidential information has been blocked or redacted as per your use case. Sensitive data protection is a powerful tool that gives 200 plus connectors or info types. And what it does is you can have many info types that includes things like identifying credit card information, social security numbers, as well as has health information. It also provides ways where you can understand the sensitivity or confidential nature of documents and block documents from reaching the agent. It provides image processing as well as custom classifiers, where you can then create your own sort of regex rules or lists or even other AI-based custom info types to block and redact information. Now, all of this is powered through, obviously, using regex, pattern matching, and checksums. These are very powerful tools. They're very rapid and with low latency. It can scale really well, but it does not understand intent or context. And so for that, we've built a lot of info types that does include, which is powered by AI, ML, and natural language processing, including like image and audio, that does understand context and intent. And we can bring that together to provide a powerful sensitive data protection. Now, how do you apply this? While sensitive data protection is available in the Model Armor template configuration for the inputs and outputs, you can also enable this using the sensitive data content policy on the connectors. So before you get the data from any of your SharePoints, Jira, etc., you can apply the content policy there, and which will again identify PII data, redact or block it before the agent can use it. So we'll demonstrate that as well. Again, we're going to be back in the GE app. where in this time, the connector is going to be to the OneDrive, or the Google Drive, and that will have, say, shared confidential information within it. Without sensitive data protection, the user will be able to query that, but with the sensitive data protection, you will see that will get blocked. So hopefully this will work. Yeah. All right, we are back in the GE app, and this time, OneDrive is connected. And this could be Google Drive as well. And you'll see in the OneDrive, this is mock data with company revenue information, which you probably don't want all your employees to have access to. It has a sensitivity label, as you can see, of sensitive. So someone's done the right thing. They've put confidential or sensitivity label in the document, and now the user is querying the agent. Since the agent has access to that document, it's going to answer that question. And if this is a public company, the user can profit from it as well and make some good trades. There, so the revenue information was shown. Now back here, you can configure, in the sensitive data protection, configure a content policy. You're going to be creating a custom info type with the Microsoft information labels, sensitive and confidential. And then you'll create a policy rule to block that. You can apply this content policy. We'll take the name of it here. And you can apply it to any of the connectors. The UI for the connectors is in private preview, and we can allow this. We did it through CLI, and you can do it use Terraform to do it as well. So we're going to apply the content policy to the OneDrive connector. And again, we ask the same question, and you'll see that now it's going to get blocked. It's not going to get access to that document. Awesome. So just to recap, in order to secure your agents, the two things that we recommend you do is apply guardrails like model armor on the inputs and outputs, and also make sure you have sensitive data protection content policy on the connectors. So lastly, after we've discussed how to discover your agents, how to put access controls, how to make sure your data is secure, and how your agents are secure, we're going to lastly talk about how do I monitor these agents in Gemini Enterprise. So you have 3 levels in which you can do this. The first one is going to be agent observability that is available through the agent platform. So for all of your ADK agents used in Gemini Enterprise, you will benefit from the platform level agent observability launching with Agent Gateway, including agent-specific telemetry, which includes the traces. For these agents, you will get end-to-end observability beyond Gemini Enterprise. They will have metrics like token usage and token calls. It will also include prompt and response logs with the agent identity that Anusheel spoke about. And this will be very helpful for security operations and triangulations of actions across applications. So the next thing you can get is Gemini Enterprise Analytics within GE. There you'll get app-level analytics and per-agent metrics. On the app-level analytics, this layer provides a high-level bird's-eye view an out-of-the-box dashboard, and it is designed to help you understand the overall adoption and user behavior across the organization. This will also give you information about any violations, etc., that's happening at the app level. And it'll have metrics like active user counts, retention rates, leaderboard of most adopted agents. You'll also get the per agent metrics. Now this layer shifts focus on the performance of individual agents. It helps you identify which specific agents are functioning well and how are they being adopted. The key metrics here would be like total sessions, number of tools invoked, error rates, average latency per agent, etc. And then finally, you can also get trace level telemetry, which is per session level. So at the most granular level, OTel will be compliant, provide OTel compliant tracing, which provides a deep dive into your session level information and all the hops. And this can really help for troubleshooting. So we want to leave you with 6 best practices that you should take to secure and govern your GE agents, your Gemini Enterprise agents. So the first one, you must use agent registry to register your agents within Gemini Enterprise and outside. As mentioned earlier, this is your single place of discovery and to help you govern all the agents in your organization. Second, you can use IAM permissions to make sure the right permissions are available to per user, to per group, to ensure that unknowingly your users don't have access to information they shouldn't, or access to agents that they shouldn't. As I just mentioned, you can monitor performance at various levels, at the agent platform level, on the GE app level, and the telemetry level with traces. And this will be compatible with your external tools, so you can export your data and centralize your analytics whichever tool you use. As I already mentioned, you should apply model armor to protect against prompt injections, and sensitive data protection to protect against data exfiltration on the connectors. And finally, use identity. This is going to be a single source of truth to understand what's going on with each of your agents. So with that, thank you very much.